Have you ever stood in your garden, staring at the soil, wondering why everything feels stuck? You water, you wait, you do what you were told. And still, growth feels slow and unpredictable. Here's the quiet truth most gardeners never hear. Plants don't grow slowly by accident. They slow down when something in their environment is asking for attention. In parts of Japan, farmers read those signals differently. They don't fight the plant, they don't overwhelm it, and they don't try to outsmart nature. Instead, they listen closely to the soil, the roots, the seasons, and that patience creates speed. Once you understand this shift, gardening stops feeling like guesswork and starts feeling like a conversation. And that single change can completely transform how fast and how confidently your garden grows. In this video, you're going to learn the exact principles that allow Japanese farmers to get quicker harvests from the same crops you grow at home. No chemicals, no complicated systems, and no exhausting routines. These are practical ideas you can use in small beds, containers, or even tired soil. More importantly, you'll learn how to spot the early signs that your plants are ready to thrive, instead of forcing them before they're prepared. And near the end, I'll share one simple habit that looks almost too gentle to matter, yet it consistently leads to stronger regrowth and longer harvest windows. Once you apply it, your garden won't just grow faster, it will feel more alive and responsive. Hey garden lovers, welcome to Golden Garden Days. I'm John, and I'm really glad you're here today. This channel is a calm place for people who love growing food, even if their bodies, schedules, or energy levels aren't what they used to be. We focus on thoughtful, proven garden wisdom that respects both the plants and the gardener. If that sounds like your kind of space, subscribe and turn on notifications so we can keep learning together. Every week, we share ideas that make gardening feel lighter, more rewarding, and more enjoyable, right where you are. Before we talk about techniques, we need to shift how we look at growth itself. Because everything starts below the surface, in places we don't usually see. When you understand what's happening underground, slow gardens begin to make sense, and fast-growing gardens stop feeling mysterious. Let's start with the first principle Japanese farmers rely on, the one that quietly sets everything else in motion. Tip 1. They prioritize roots before leaves. One of the biggest differences in how Japanese farmers approach growing vegetables is where they place their attention in the very beginning. Instead of watching the leaves and measuring success by how fast something pops up above the soil, they focus on what's happening out of sight. Because a plant that looks small on the surface can still be quietly preparing for explosive growth underneath. Early on, they resist the urge to feed heavily or push quick results. Too much fertilizer at the start may look impressive, but it often teaches plants to become lazy. Roots stay shallow, depending on constant feeding instead of learning how to explore the soil. Japanese farmers allow a gentle level of challenge, just enough nutrients, just enough water, so the roots are encouraged to search, stretch, and anchor themselves deeply. This early patience pays off later in a big way. Deep, well-developed roots can access moisture longer, pull in nutrients more efficiently, and handle temperature swings with far less stress. When heat arrives or watering becomes less consistent, these plants don't panic. They already have what they need. And because the foundation is strong, the visible growth that follows is faster, steadier, and more resilient. For home gardeners, this approach actually means doing less. Water thoroughly, then allow the soil surface to dry slightly before watering again, instead of keeping it constantly wet. Feed lightly in the early stages, focusing on balance rather than speed. Let the plant show you when it's ready for more. You'll often notice stronger stems, richer leaf color, and fewer setbacks later in the season. Bonus insight: that brief dryness early on sends a powerful signal to the plant. Roots respond by growing outward and downward, creating a wider network that supports everything above. Once that network is established, top growth feels almost automatic. The plant doesn't struggle, it simply grows confidently and consistently because its foundation is already prepared. Tip 2. The soil is never left bare. One thing you'll almost never see in traditional Japanese farming is exposed, naked soil sitting in the sun. To them, bare ground isn't neutral, it's vulnerable. When soil is uncovered, moisture escapes quickly, temperature swings become harsher, and the living life beneath the surface goes into survival mode. Growth slows not because the plant is weak, but because the soil is under stress. Japanese farmers treat soil the way you'd treat skin on a cold or windy day. It's always protected. They use whatever organic material is available: fallen leaves, straw, rice husks, trimmed plant matter, or living cover crops. This gentle blanket shields the soil from heat during the day and cold at night, creating a calm, stable environment where roots can work without interruption. That stability changes everything. Moisture stays where plants can reach it instead of evaporating into the air. Beneficial microbes stay active, breaking down organic matter and quietly feeding roots around the clock. Worms and soil organisms move freely, improving structure and airflow without any effort from the gardener. The result is soil that behaves like a supportive partner rather than a problem to manage. For home gardeners, this doesn't require anything fancy. Even a thin layer of mulch and just enough to cover the surface can make a noticeable difference. You may find yourself watering less often, pulling fewer weeds, and seeing steadier growth even during unpredictable weather. Plants grown in protected soil tend to look calmer, with fewer signs of stress and more consistent development. Bonus insight: that thin layer of mulch acts like a time saver. By keeping moisture and temperature stable, plants waste less energy recovering from stress, which means they can devote more energy to growing. It's one of the simplest ways to quietly speed things up without pushing harder.
Quick pause, gardener. If this is helping you see your garden differently, tap subscribe so you don't miss our weekly garden guides. And tell me in the comments, which tip has surprised you the most so far?
Tip 3. Plants are grown together, not isolated in many home gardens. Spacing charts are followed like strict rules. Each plant gets its own bubble of space, carefully measured and evenly spread. Japanese farmers often take a very different approach. They see plants not as individuals competing for survival, but as neighbors that benefit from being close. When crops grow together, they create small living communities that support one another in quiet, powerful ways. As plants grow side by side, their leaves overlap just enough to soften the sunlight reaching the soil. This natural shade keeps the ground cooler and slows moisture loss, which means roots stay comfortable for longer periods. Below the surface, root systems occupy different layers of soil rather than fighting for the same space. Some draw moisture deeper down, others spread wide near the surface, creating balance instead of competition. This closeness also makes life harder for weeds. With less exposed soil and fewer open gaps, weeds struggle to get established. That means less time spent bending, pulling, and correcting problems. The garden becomes more self-regulating, needing fewer interventions to stay healthy and productive. For home gardeners, this approach feels unfamiliar at first. It can look crowded compared to neat, evenly spaced rows. But when you watch closely, you'll see plants growing steadier and more confidently. Growth becomes more even, and soil stays cooler and calmer throughout the day. Many gardeners notice that closely planted beds recover faster after heat, wind, or inconsistent watering. Bonus insight: pairing fast-growing leafy greens with slower crops is one of the easiest ways to try this. Greens provide early shade and protection, while slower plants take their time below the surface. By the time the greens are harvested, the slower crops are already established and ready to take over. What looks crowded at first quietly becomes coordinated. Crowded doesn't mean chaotic. In a well-planned garden, it means cooperative growth, shared protection, and a system that works together, naturally and efficiently. Tip 4. They plant with the season, not against it. One of the quiet strengths in Japanese farming is a deep respect for timing. Instead of racing the calendar or trying to get a head start at all costs, they pay close attention to what the season is actually offering. Temperature, daylight, and soil warmth are treated as guides, not obstacles to overcome. When those signals align, growth happens naturally and with far less resistance. Cool season vegetables are planted when the soil still holds a chill. Rather than waiting for warmth, these crops settle in comfortably and begin growing without stress. Their roots develop steadily, and their leaves remain tender and balanced. Warm season plants, on the other hand, are never rushed. Japanese farmers wait until the soil has truly warmed, knowing that warmth below the surface matters more than warm air above it. This patience often leads to a surprising result. Crops planted later, under the right conditions, frequently outgrow those planted early in cold, unready soil. Early planted vegetables may sit still for weeks, conserving energy instead of growing. Later plantings skip that stalled phase and move forward immediately, giving the impression of faster growth even though they were planted later. For home gardeners, this principle can be freeing. There's less pressure to plant at the very first opportunity, and more confidence in waiting for the right moment. Instead of constantly protecting seedlings from cold snaps or uneven temperatures, you allow nature to do the stabilizing work for you. Plants grown in their preferred conditions tend to be stronger, more resilient, and easier to care for overall. Bonus insight: forcing plants early often creates hidden setbacks. Stress experienced at the beginning doesn't disappear. It shows up later as slower growth, weaker yields, or increased vulnerability. When planting aligns with the season, plants spend less energy recovering and more energy growing. That's why timing consistently outperforms effort. When you plant in rhythm with the season, the garden moves forward smoothly without struggle or strain. Here's the habit that often feels counterintuitive, yet makes a remarkable difference in how productive a garden becomes. Japanese farmers don't wait for plants to reach some perfect final size before harvesting. Instead, they interact with their crops regularly, taking small amounts at the right moments. This gentle, ongoing harvesting sends a clear signal to the plant: keep going. When a plant is left untouched for too long, its energy naturally shifts toward finishing its life cycle. Growth slows, leaves toughen, and production tapers off. But when harvests happen lightly and consistently, the plant responds by pushing out fresh growth. New leaves form, stems strengthen, and productivity stretches over a much longer period of time. This approach turns harvesting into a conversation rather than a conclusion. For leafy greens, herbs, and many vegetables, removing a portion of growth encourages the plant to replace what was taken. Energy that might have gone into flowering or slowing down is redirected back into new leaves and shoots. The result isn't just more food, it's a steadier, healthier rhythm of growth. For home gardeners, this habit is easy to adopt and surprisingly satisfying. Instead of waiting weeks for one large harvest, you collect small amounts as needed. This keeps plants balanced and prevents them from becoming stressed or overgrown. It also reduces waste, since you're harvesting exactly what you'll use. Harvesting, when done thoughtfully, isn't an ending. It's a form of encouragement, a gentle reminder to the plant that its job isn't finished yet, and that steady effort, not force, is what leads to abundance. Japanese farmers don't grow faster because they rush, strain, or outwork everyone else. They grow faster because they've learned how to notice what plants are already trying to do, and then step in with support instead of pressure. That difference may seem subtle, but it changes everything about how a garden feels and how it performs. You don't need to overhaul your entire garden or memorize complicated systems to see results. Real progress often begins with a single, thoughtful adjustment. Maybe it's paying closer attention to the soil before planting. Maybe it's harvesting a little sooner or letting plants share space instead of standing alone. Small choices, applied consistently, have a way of multiplying over time. One of the most reassuring lessons in all of this is that gardens are forgiving. They respond quickly when conditions improve. When plants feel supported rather than forced, growth becomes smoother, more reliable, and far less stressful for the person tending them. What once felt slow and unpredictable can begin to feel steady and rewarding. If this guide brought a little sunshine to your day, take a moment to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more peaceful garden inspiration. This channel is about enjoying the process just as much as the harvest, and I'd love to hear from you. Which idea are you most excited to try first? Or which habit feels like it might change things for you? Until next time, keep your hands in the soil, your heart in the garden, and your days golden.